Here's how it works. If you want to run a factory in Russia, you're required to partner with a local legal representative, a Russian national, who will essentially act as the face of your business. All your factory equipment, from forklifts to saws and trucks, must be registered under their name. This legal representative has complete control. If they decide they want to sell off your assets, they can. If they don't want you to sell anything, you can't. You're completely at their mercy. The first owner of this factory learned this the hard way. He left not because he wanted to, but because he had no other choice. His hands were tied. The story doesn't end there. Why? Because soybeans are cheap there right now. Sure, on paper that might seem appealing. The prices are low, farmers are desperate to sell their products, and the market appears ripe for the taking. But my advice remains the same. Don't do it. Don't throw your money into Russia. To help explain why, let me tell you a story. Take a look at this factory. At first glance, it looks like a decent setup, a spacious facility, equipped with drying ovens, a planning workshop, and 2 sawmills. It might seem like the perfect investment opportunity, but the reality. This factory is a financial black hole. Back in 2009, the first owner spent a hefty 9 million yuan to establish this operation. By 2017, he had walked away from it entirely, abandoning the factory without even attempting to recover his investment. Why would someone do that, you ask? Because in Russia, the system is rigged against foreign investors. Here's how it works. If you want to run a factory in Russia, you're required to partner with a local legal representative, Russian national. Who will essentially act as the face of your business. All your factory equipment, from forklifts to saws and trucks, must be registered under their name. This legal representative has complete control. If they decide they want to sell off your assets, they can. If they don't want you to sell anything, you can't. You're completely at their mercy. The first owner of this factory learned this the hard way. He left not because he wanted to, but because he had no other choice. His hands were tied. Story doesn't end there. After the first owner abandoned the factory, a second one stepped in around 2017. Surely they thought they could turn things around, but the outcome was the same. Despite their efforts, the costs of running the factory were simply too high, so they couldn't make a profit, and eventually, they too gave up. Fast forward to the present day, and a third owner has taken over. Yet again, history repeats itself. The costs are exorbitant, the bureaucracy is overwhelming, and the local authorities show no interest in supporting the business. Let me be blunt. The Russians don't care if your factory runs or not. They don't care if you make money. All they care about is collecting rent, taxes, and fees. If you fail to pay up, they'll kick you out without hesitation. It doesn't matter how well equipped your facility is or how much potential it has. This factory I'm talking about has everything it needs to start production. Immediately, industrial boilers, power supplies, and fully functional planning workshops. But in over 20 years, not a single Chinese investor has managed to turn a profit here. So who's making money? The Russian legal representatives, of course. They're the ones reaping the benefits while foreign investors bleed cash. Yet, despite all these glaring red flags, many Chinese investors continue to pour their money into Russia. Why, some are simply unaware of the risks. Others have been influenced by decades of Chinese Communist Party's CCP propaganda that paints Russia as a friendly, democratic neighbor. The CCP's narrative encourages this misguided faith in Russia, leading countless individuals to make costly mistakes. For example, some investors think they're being strategic by investing in border cities like Keelin or Dongying. They believe these locations offer a safer, more controlled environment for their ventures. But even then, the risks remain sky high. Instead of sinking your money into Russian factories or oil refineries, a far better approach would be to trade with Russia on simpler terms. Here's how it works. If you want to run a factory in Russia, you're required to partner with a local legal representative, Russian national, who will essentially act as the face of your business. All your factory equipment, from forklifts to saws and trucks, must be registered under their name. This legal representative has complete control. If they decide they want to sell off your assets, they can. If they don't want you to sell anything, you can't. You're completely at their mercy. The first owner of this factory learned this the hard way. He left not because he wanted to, but because he had no other choice. His hands were tied. The story doesn't end there. It's because they've been fed the narrative that Russia is a friendly, welcoming nation. The CCP has even gone so far as to reintroduce Russian language courses in some schools, replacing English in certain areas. This revival of Russian education harks back to the 1950s. During the Soviet era, when relations between China and Russia were strong. But times have changed, and history has shown us that Russia's so-called friendship with China is anything but reliable. Despite this, some young Chinese citizens, unable to pursue opportunities in the West, have turned to Russia for education and work. Others, driven by financial struggles, have even joined Russian mercenary groups, only to find themselves treated as expendable cannon fodder. One Chinese mercenary shared his harrowing experience. On his first day, he was sent to defend a position without any training. He didn't know what to do or what to shoot at. In his own words, "I just fired a few shots and called it a day." This story underscores the grim reality of Sino-Russian CO relationship built on mutual distrust and exploitation. The economic ties between China and Russia are equally fraught. Recently, Russia imposed a staggering 55% tariff on Chinese furniture hardware, a move that shocked many in China. To put this into perspective, European manufacturers face a far lower tariff increase of just 10%. This blatant suppression of Chinese suppliers has sent ripples through Russia's entire furniture industry. For many Chinese citizens, this was a wake-up call. Before the U.S. could even ramp up its trade war with China, Russia supposed ally was already taking measures to undermine Chinese businesses. So why does Russia behave this way? The answer is simple. Russia is desperate for money. But more importantly, they've never truly cared about China. For years, Russia has exploited China while pretending to be a loyal partner. From territorial disputes to economic manipulation, Russia's actions have consistently undermined Chinese interests. Take, for instance, Russia's recent diplomatic maneuvers. Earlier this year, Russia held an international conference on South China Sea cooperation, inviting countries like Vietnam and the Philippines, but deliberately excluding China. The message was clear. Russia is more interested in strengthening its own position in Southeast Asia than in supporting China. Similarly, Russian President Vladimir Putin has made several high-profile visits to North Korea, Mongolia, and Central Asia, all with the aim of countering China's influence in the region. These actions reveal the true nature of Russia's so-called friendship with China. It's a relationship of convenience, not genuine alliance. For those who still believe in the CCP's narrative that the China-Russia relationship has no limits, it's time to take a hard look at history. Over the past 200 years, Russia has repeatedly schemed against China, even coming close to launching a nuclear strike in the 1960s. This is not a partnership built on trust or mutual respect. It's a temporary arrangement born out of necessity, with both sides looking out for their own interests. In conclusion, the idea of investing in Russia might seem tempting to some. But the reality is far more complex and dangerous. From economic exploitation to political manipulation, Russia has shown time and again that it cannot be trusted as a reliable partner. For Chinese investors, the best course of action is to steer clear of Russian ventures altogether. Instead, focus on safer, more stable opportunities elsewhere. As the saying goes, investing is like traveling to civilized places. And when it comes to Russia, the risks far outweigh the rewards.